I'm not 100% sure, but I think I found the world's biggest abandoned skate park. And it's in Pune. Skate parks are awesome. It's like its own little world where you're allowed to do dumb shit, fall flat on your face, make mistakes, and experiment with a skateboard, and you don't have to be worried about being run over by a car, a bus, a cow, a dog, or anything that you can find on Indian roads. Now, 3 months back, I got myself a skateboard, and long story short, I think I found the world's biggest skate park. Yeah. So this is how the story goes. I searched around for a couple of skate parks, and there are two skate parks in Pune. So one is a pretty tiny one. It's basically a modified swimming pool, and the other one is interesting. The other one turned out to be the world's biggest, the most expensive, and the strangest skate park that you've ever seen. Okay, to give you a little perspective, the world's second largest skate park, that's in Guangzhou, China, which also happens to be the coolest looking Overwatch team, but some other day. So that skate park has a surface area of 182,000 square feet, which is around 3.48 football fields. A large area, a very large area. And that took around $25 million to build. Pretty hefty sum. But it is absolutely pennies compared to the one in Pune. The skate park in Pune has a total surface area of 2,800,000 square feet, which is around 38 football fields. Yes, it's a humongous skate park. It's a humongous area. And it took a staggering amount of $170 million to build it. And that's not even the most interesting thing about it. The most interesting thing about the skate park is that no one uses it. Yes, it's completely abandoned. It's a ghost town. You can use all the adverbs about some abandoned, mysterious place. And yes, it fits all of that. So I really wanted to know who built this, and yes, it's just really interesting. So it turns out that I couldn't find who built this because I don't think it was built by a person. It was built by Pune's transportation agency. Yeah, it's built by PMPML, and its job description is basically taking care of Pune's traffic, maintaining the traffic regulations, and the whole, and basically all the duties that come with being the government body that takes care of traffic. So why would a government body build a skate park? Now, I don't think I'll be able to explain it to you very well because I stammer a lot, I have a weird accent, and yeah, I'm not very good at explaining things. So I'll just show you what the skate park is, and you'll realize. Welcome to the world's biggest and the most expensive skate park that you'll ever see. Sorry. Now, if you say that all I'm doing is standing in the middle of the road while having a cup of tea in my hand, you'd be wrong. Number one, the cup is empty, and number two, this is not a road, it's a skate park. I'll explain. A road can be defined as a piece of land which is supposed to be a path from point A to point B. It can be paved or unpaved. I think you'll agree, right? A skate park can be defined as a paved piece of land which is supposed to be used for skateboarding or recreation purposes. Now, this road is not used by any vehicle, and there are plenty of roads like this spread throughout Pune that are not used for any vehicles. But why? You see, these roads are basically an empty patch of land in the middle of a bigger road. The road on my left and my right are working. They're used by regular commuters for going from point A to point B. But this is used for people walking their dogs, playing badminton, just hanging out, people doing photography, or anything that you might think of doing in a recreational space. If you say that this is not a skate park, it can be termed as anything. To which I have a pretty good answer. You see, you can't call it a park because it doesn't have any unpaved surfaces. You can't call it a recreational center because it doesn't have clear exits and entries and it has no rides or no gizmos. You can't call it a badminton or a volleyball court because it's not covered and it doesn't have the right surface and it's tilted. You can't call it a tennis court because then the ball would go to any random place, and tennis courts are generally covered by a fence. I play tennis, so I know. So what can you call a paved piece of land that is used by people for chilling out and doing things? I think a skate park is a pretty generous word. And let's be honest, if I made a film about an empty patch of road in the middle of a road, it wouldn't be so fancy, would it be? But skate parks are cool. So, this is a skate park. Now I'll explain what a fiasco BRTS is, and yes, there are going to be some math, so be brave. BRTS is a rather simple concept. So you take a road, you cut one lane, you make some partitions, and you use that lane only for the movement of buses. And at certain distances, you make terminals so that people can get on and get off. And that's it. This is literally the definition of BRTS. But it relies on one critical, teeny tiny, itty bitty assumption. The assumption is you already have wide enough roads with good infrastructure and traffic management. Now, if you did not get the joke, let me speak to you very slowly and in a dramatic tone. All you need are wide enough roads with good infrastructure and traffic management in Pune, i.e. a city in India. If you did not get the joke, I feel sorry for you. If you didn't know how roads are built and maintained in India, here's a very quick 4-step crash course. Step 1, you build a road. Pretty obvious. Step 2, someone will point out that you forgot to install gas pipes. You say, uh-oh. Step 3, you dig up the whole road. Step 4, you rebuild the road. And I have another problem with the system. Okay, so just to show you how the system falls apart and, quite frankly, flat on its face, I came up with a thought experiment. Now, for the thought experiment to work, there are a couple of assumptions that I am going ahead with. You may have your own, and feel free if you want to correct mine. So, I would be showing two scenarios. One where the BRTS is implemented and one where it isn't. Here are the assumptions. So number 1, we would be just starting with 100 vehicles instead of the actual 2.2 million vehicles that are in Pune, because 100 is better and easier to understand. Secondly, all the vehicles would be averaged out to being small hatchbacks. Why? Around 22% of the vehicles on the road are two-wheelers, that is your motorcycles, your scooters, bicycles, etc. And around 4% of the vehicles on the road are trucks. So it's safe to assume that in the surface area that it takes for a truck, you can accommodate 4 to 5 two-wheelers. So we're going to average it all out to being small hatchbacks, even though it should be small coupes, but it's okay, we don't have a lot of coupes in India, so small hatchbacks. Okay, assumption number 3. Since we know that BRTS dedicates one lane per road to buses, so the system without BRTS will have 3 active lanes which all vehicles can use, and the system without BRTS will have 2. Okay? Assumption number 4. You see, buses represent around 2.4% of the total traffic in Pune. So we're just going to take the whole number, that is 3, the largest number next to it, because you can't have 2.4 buses. Right. So on the BRTS side, since we're assuming that the system is very efficient, so it would take around 7% of cars off the road, because then these cars and these commuters would be using the BRTS. So the total number of vehicles on the road would be 90 plus 3 buses, that is 93. But since the buses would only use the BRTS lane, so the total number of vehicles on the road would be 90. In terms of the non-BRTS system, we're not changing anything, so the number would stay at 100. Assumption number 5. The year-on-year growth of vehicles in Pune is somewhere around 8.5 to 10%. but we're going to lowball it and we're going to take it at 8%. Okay, so in this very accurate and professionally made graph, in the first year itself, you can see that a city that doesn't have BRTS will have 33 cars per lane, while a city that does have BRTS will have somewhere around 45 cars per lane. So just by decreasing the size of the road, you've increased your traffic by 36%. That's around 4 cars for every 10 cars, or 40 cars for every 100 cars, or 400 cars for every 1000 cars. I mean, you know how ratios work. And in the fifth year, a city without BRTS will have 61 cars, while a city with BRTS will have 45 cars per lane. Okay, so using the power of hindsight, you can see that in the first year itself, the city with the BRTS fast forwarded its traffic scenario by 5 years without adding a single vehicle on the road. Because it has been proven time and time again that reducing the size of the road is one of the worst things that you can do to reduce traffic. And by the time you reach the 10th year, a city with the BRTS will have 90 cars on the road. The correct number is 89.95, but like we know, there's no 0.5% of a car. You will not see a wheel just floating around. It will be a car. Now, compare the figure of 90 cars to 33 cars per lane that we started the experiment with. That's almost an increase of 2.7 times. Now, agreed, when you don't have the BRTS, you're not faring that much better. You still have basically double your traffic. But that extra congestion just might be the number of cars that breaks the whole system. And it did, and that's why PMPML took some pretty drastic steps and have allowed vehicles in BRTS lanes. So, you spent 1000 crores, 7 years, a lot of construction downtime, labor, manpower, just to have the same road that you started with. Now, I'm not an economist, but I would say that it's a waste of resources. Now, agreed, since I just confirmed that I'm not an economist, nor have I studied economics on a professional level, I don't think college counts. So, what would a good use of those 7 years and 1000 crores be? Now, I'm coming from a very biased point of view, but here are some of the things that I think would be good. We could get some worthy sequels for our childhood favorites like Khichdi 2 or Sarabhai vs Sarabhai Season 2. If you say Sarabhai vs Sarabhai Season 2 is good, here's a dialogue from Taken. Or you could spend this money for public welfare, sustainable housing, feeding the poor and the needy, and making a robust system all over to take care of the people who are underprivileged. Or I have a third option. Now this may be a little bit controversial, but it's okay, here it goes. I think you should give that money to Ayushmann Khurrana on a contract that he'll make 50 movies over the course of 5 years tackling all the major issues in the country. And I think he'll be able to bring more attention to all the problems than you and I can combine, than you and I. And frankly, when the government is under scrutiny, it tends to work pretty well. So, Ayushmann Khurrana, contact the government. We need you.